At Woodcrest, in Year 1, we are studying humanities and social sciences. My students range from 6 to 7 years old, and we integrated a unit where students got to investigate things from the past, present and future. The kids worked through a inquiry-based cycle that was inspired by a dig.
I love how we designed the whole unit to really promote engagement and to capture the students' interests and curiosities throughout all the phases.
We have done some wonderings where the children posed many questions about things that were explicitly taught, like family dynamics, old jobs and just washing up the dishes.
I was really surprised with the students' level of questioning and the open-ended questions that they were asking, which is really integral to inquiry.
Something that's delighted me would be how enthusiastic and engaged the students got, the connections they made with their grandparents and their families and their teachers, and how much their results just flourished.
Our students have gone down their own rabbit holes and they've found some new things to inquire about this. We had an expert, my nana, come in and talk to the children and answer their questions, which gave both the children and my nan a kick.
So I had a nan coming in, so it just kind of gave it that more authentic voice. The students could ask somebody who who has lived in the past, what was their experience like, or how did they feel about doing this?
Then we've moved on to where they did some research, and that was through hands-on experiences. So we had a history day where students participated in those experiences. So they washed their washing with a board, they played marbles, and we made butter in a jar. From this, they've then got some more wonderings, or answers to their previous wonderings, and this has then turned into their assessment and what they're going to be able to do to present their artefact.
I was also really surprised when we got to our artefact making. So the students got to choose something that really interested them that they'd learnt throughout the whole term, whether that was something at History Day, where they got to engage in 10 activities from the past. So I know that sparked a lot of their curiosity. They got to decide what interested them the most, what they resonated with, or what they just found really cool. And they got to create anything they liked to tell their story.
They were provided with a multitude of materials: clay, Play-Doh, Lego, pop sticks and paint, and then they were set free and they have produced wonderful artefacts.
Our artefacts were amazing. Last term I had students all doing painting, they all painted pictures, that's all. This term they really drive their own learning. I had students making dioramas, we had posters, we did have paintings, we had writing, we had little models. So I had a model typewriter and a model record player. And that was cool, like the artefacts were great, but the stories behind them, the students were so confident to sit up, especially after doing this last term, sit in the chair, teach their friends, and they would tell them, like, I didn't know that using a typewriter that there's no delete button, or I didn't know that, when you have a record player, you can't skip the songs and you have to carry these big records around, you can't just put a song on wherever you want, and it's really heavy, and this is what life was like, and now we have the internet. And it was really cool, the connections they were making throughout, and I just really feel like if we had told them what to do or tried to put them down a narrow path for their assessment, I just wouldn't have known, I wouldn't have found out what the kids were interested in, that these particular kids were interested in gender roles and why couldn't women work, and these particular kids were interested in the cane and what detention was like and what the teachers and why they were so strict. Like, I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't done sort of this cycle. And I really loved that. I loved hearing the student voice, and I've learned so much about them throughout it.
One of my students had a eureka moment where they spoke to their grandparents and they saw an old record player, then they spoke to their parents and they got to see a cassette player, and then they looked at the iPads and Spotify and Apple Music that we use now. He was able to bring this into class, these 3 items, and he was able to share them and transfer his knowledge and teach other students about what things that he learnt, and it just absolutely blew their minds.
And the other thing that really surprised and delighted me was the amount of engagement in this unit. These kids haven't experienced anything from the past, so it could have been very dry. However, through providing this inquiry cycle, they were able to really get into it and constantly be asking questions and engaged in their learning.
One of the most powerful elements of inquiry have been bringing the student's story beyond the four walls of the classroom. They've been able to make those connections with families and just completely blow our minds.
Will we be doing this again next term? Absolutely. It was a wonderful experience. I can't wait to see where this goes next year and the year after and the year after.